right, everyone. I am so pumped about this episode. I have the local and global legend, Dr. MJ, in the house. Welcome, MJ. I'm so excited to have you.
Oh, thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
Oh,
And I'm
my
I'm sitting with a legend too.
man, it means a lot coming from you. Um, Man, we're gonna jump into so much. I am just overwhelmed. I'm already feeling like we need 3 episodes because you're such a deep well.
Um,
There's just so much goodness here with you. Um, but before we jump into all the deep stuff, let's hope that people get to know you outside of work because we are all humans outside of work.
mhm.
Um, let's say you have a couple $100, you have 2 or 3 days on the weekend, free time, you're not speaking, you're not writing, you're not doing all your activism work. And what is MJ doing just on the weekend? She has some free time. What's those hobbies? How is she living with an open schedule?
Yeah, so it would be I love to teach dance, and so I teach line dancing, and I love it. It's super, super fun because years ago when I started teaching just dance, not necessarily line dancing, I realized that there's a whole group of people who don't feel good about their bodies, and don't like to be in front of people dancing. Or there's some people who have had injuries. And so I do go to facilities where people can't move. They're, pretty immobile. And I teach them how to dance from their chairs, and it's so fun to see people just moving. And so I would be teaching dance, and then I would probably be at like a Dave and Buster's. I am a fanatic for arcade games. I love really new and high speed games. I love that. I love going to arcades and playing games. And I have a greeting card thing that I do. So I love making greeting cards and I love doing graphics. Those three things, they make me happy. They just
That
do dancing and watching other people dance. And
I love that. It makes me think of one of my favorite pictures I have is it's in my other office, but I have this picture of Henry Nouwen, the author,
mm,
and he's on a
yeah.
skateboard. And I love it so much
I
because like
know.
people like you who are so wise, so deep, they're always
Mhm.
helping other people. They we always think they're just in a chapel praying or just right, and it's like for me to see that picture of now and hearing you talk about dancing and going to arcades,
Mhm.
just having fun, it's like
Yes.
we all come to you for advice and guidance and but like so often I think it's so healthy for us to hear stories like that from people like you say, no, I go to the arcade or I love to dance. Um this podcast's already worth it. I've already learned so much new things about you. um
Yeah. And I love, one of the things, one of my mottos, Tyler, is I love to chase the joy. So I don't chase success or any of that. I love chasing the joy. And before I, got into ministry, kind of this whole deepness of that, I wanted to be a stand-up comedian. And so
wow.
I used to always make people laugh. You're not trying to anyway. I love to. My family was like, "Oh, here comes MJ. You gotta get ready. She's gonna make us laugh." At my schools, and so I love igniting joy in other people.
I love that. And you do that. You really do. You mentioned your family. Where did you grow up? Where's home? What would you consider home now? What's kind of like where's your roots?
Yeah, I grew up in, well, two places: Chicago, Illinois, and Gary, Indiana. And so my home is interesting. I was adopted. My mom gave me away when I was 6 months old to a older couple who lived in a public housing project in Chicago. For those who are older, you will remember Cabrini Green. It was kind of an infamous but popular place. It was where that reality show, well, that show Good Times with JJ Dynamite was
Okay.
filmed across the street. So I grew up in real, I don't know how to say it, abject poverty is the way I could say it. I mean, poverty to the extent that you didn't have to go overseas. I mean, if we had mustard bread sandwiches, We were
Mm,
just super happy to have that. We should take Jello and just make Jello water, and it was our treat for the day. Drink it down before gels, and
yep.
so I grew up in that environment in Gary, Indiana. It's an interesting journey growing up in Chicago, and I won't get into all this, but my identity and how I saw myself, based on the neighborhood and community that I grew up in. And so it was an interesting journey of that. I learned a lot about life, and I learned a lot about how it doesn't matter where a person grows up or, whatever it be, the neighborhood doesn't make us, we make the neighborhood.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so I always have a saying, let's put the neighbor back into the hood and make it a real neighborhood.
Yes. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, it's so, and then now I'm in Colorado Springs, but I didn't like this city title when I first moved
Yes.
here. I was like, oh my gosh, no way. And so I left here 3 times. I took
Wow.
my bags by night. I was like, I'm getting out of here.
Yes.
It's not a place I like, whatever. And then, of course, the Lord prompted me to come back, and I stayed for a little while. And I'm like, I'm out like the Flash. This is enough of this
Yes.
until I settled myself, and I was like, okay, this is my place.
I love that. So, so let's say there's somebody like you talked about, how we make the neighborhood. We can happen to our environment. Our environment doesn't have to happen to us. We can impact. We can How have you found, and we'll dive into all parts of this in your story, but just for some wisdom at the top of the podcast, you mentioned growing up drinking Jello water, eating mustard sandwiches. What would you say to the person who says, "Listen, I would love to impact my community, but I don't have any resources. I'm not influential. I'm not famous. I'm not a doctor like MJ. Like I don't have any money. All I have is Jello water." How does somebody like that, if that's the posture they're holding in their hearts, what would you tell them if they want to be someone that happens to their community or that wants to make the neighborhood?
Yeah, I would just say show up and be a neighbor
Yep.
because people aren't interested in our titles and stuff. I mean, those are things we can accomplish or whatever, but honestly, people want to see folks who are just down to earth and
Hmm.
who will sit with them at a bus stop. And sit there and share donuts with them to hear how their day has went. And the thing is, for me, yeah, I do have, a doctorate degree and all of that. But I was homeless at
Yes.
some point too
Yep.
when I had a doctorate degree because of life circumstances and all. I was sleeping in my car in a Walmart parking lot in Colorado Springs and in a homeless shelter in another city. And I had a piece of paper that said PhD tucked away in my trunk.
Yep.
And so during those times, I think what we remember is that we're not what we can produce. That's not it. Those
Hmm.
things will allow us to do whatever it is that God wants us to do, but that's not it. For me, I've always just said, if you just show up. So, for instance, one day I was on a bus. I ride the bus a lot in the city. And yeah, I do have a vehicle, but I like to connect with people too. And
Yep.
so at one point, I didn't have a car. My husband died a few months after we had gotten here in the city. So I was left with nothing. And so I was riding the bus. But anyway, one day I got on a bus here and I spoke to the bus driver. Good morning. I was smiling. How are you? And all of that. And he didn't even speak. He just kind of went, hmm. So I sat down and then someone got on the bus and go, oh, hey, Dr. MJ.
Hmm.
And so then he looks back and go, oh, hi, how are you doing? And I
Yep.
go, mm-mm.
Yep.
Nope, because you're responding to a title, not a person. And
Mm.
so
Mm.
so we don't respond to people by our titles, by
Yes.
all of that stuff. You really don't. People want to see the human side and they want to know. For me personally, when I talk about God and all of that, in the context of, I'm not just talking from a book, the Bible. I want my life to always just be, when I walk into a 7-Eleven or whatever, people know me. So, for example,
Yep.
here in my neighborhood, we have a 7-Eleven right around the corner. And so I just go in there, try to talk to people and maybe get a Slurpee. I don't know. But I developed some relationships with people kind of on the fringes
Yep.
of that 7-Eleven. And one of them reached out and said, "We haven't seen you for a while. And
Mm.
so we'd like to meet with you over by the alley of 7-Eleven because we're interested, in just
Yes.
hearing more about." So I just think, again, my answer is you don't have to be in a situation that a person is in or have been to reach them. That's not it.
Yes.
Whatever's from the heart will touch the heart.
Yep. You talking about like showing up at 7-Eleven. We have a mutual friend, Alan Briggs, and
Yeah.
he always would tell me consistency breeds credibility.
Mm-hmm.
And that like the best thing you could do if you ever want to make change is just be consistent somewhere. So like
Yes.
you can make friends with the people at 7-Eleven by showing up consistently at 7-Eleven. And I think
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we are people with so much wanderlust, and adventure is great, having fun is awesome. You travel the
Yeah.
world.
Mm.
There has to be a sense of stability
It
and a
has to.
rootedness that allows us to impact the neighborhood. That if you don't go to 7-Eleven once a week or whatever and you're meeting those people, it's the consistency that really breeds that credibility. And Alan told me that years ago, and it's still something that I think has impacted my ability to impact my neighborhood is just showing up. Consistency breeds credibility. It's kind of like that other phrase. I can remember when I was starting my coffee company, and everybody was asking me to start coffee shops in other cities and in other
Mm-hmm.
towns. In fact, I was even invited to start a coffee shop in Tokyo.
Wow.
And at that time in Colorado Springs, the attitude was always these coffee shops are cooler, or these cities are cooler. There's better art. There's more
Mm-hmm.
diversity, which there is more art and more diversity in most other cities than Colorado Springs. But um, but I can remember God telling me, Tyler, the grass is not always greener on the other side. And then He
Mm-mm.
said, you have to water the grass at your feet.
You
That's how you
do.
get to green grass.
You do. Mm-hmm. You do. And if we're not willing to step into what doesn't look green,
Yes.
then we can't water it because sometimes it's easy to step into what's comfortable. Oh, these people are nice. This neighborhood is good. I feel safe in this neighborhood or with
Yes.
these people. But what about stepping into poop? I call
Yes.
it, the POOP,
Yep.
the poopy stuff, the messy stuff,
Yep.
and then watering it and being something different to people. It's
Yes.
just the truth. I mean, I just lean into that really deeply, Tyler. I just
I
believe
know.
that honestly, for me, my life, I would hope that at some point, I'm sorry,
You're okay.
whenever whenever I may actually exit this earth, that I won't be known by my degrees and all of that. That
Yes.
honestly, I'll be known as a woman who really touched the lives of people everywhere I
Yes.
went. That's really what I want.
Would you be willing to share with me, MJ, maybe about a place where you had walked in where it wasn't very green and you did water it and have
Mhm.
seen it transform? Like what's a story from your life? Because I know there's myriads where you really had to go into, or you might, I also think of the story of your mom. You mentioned cleaning hotels. I remember you telling that story about her identity. But yeah, could you give us some like real world examples of what that might look like to step into the places where the grass isn't green and where you've seen transformation and green grass grow as a result of rooting down and being consistent and loving your neighbor?
Yes, I will. Thank you. So I will share my mom's story quickly. That my mom was a maid for over 40 years, or a housekeeper for over 40 years, and she worked at a big old swanky hotel in Chicago called the Conrad Hilton. Huge. And my mom was just brilliant. Just, I mean, she studied different languages and had friends from all backgrounds and cultures, and so I just one day, as I watched my mom with 6 kids, as I watched her just get up at 4 in the morning, stand on her feet all day to take a train to go into
Yes.
another city from Gary, Indiana to Chicago.
Wow.
She took a train, Tyler, to go and be a housekeeper. And I was at one point asking her, I said, "Mama, I just want to know one thing. have you ever thought about doing something different? I mean, you work like 14 hours a day, you're cleaning toilets and you're in the laundry and you're doing all this here. And she just smiled at me and said, you know what? I am doing something different, but nobody recognizes it. And I said, well, what is that? She said, I'm doing what I love to do. And that's what's different. Most people do what other people want them to do so they can look a certain way, so that they can say they're with these people or whatever. She said, I love it. She said, I love the people I meet. I love the
Wow.
hotel. And my mom said to me, so she mentioned a guy's name who is older for anyone who wouldn't know this name. His name was Jerry Lewis.
Mm.
He was an older guy. He was a comedian.
Yep.
So she mentioned all these people. She said, I got a kiss on the cheek from Jerry Lewis in the
Mm.
elevator. I got $200 tips. I got dance. I was danced around in the hallway with kings from different countries. There's people who would come to that hotel
Hmm.
because of me. And she
Wow.
said, so what I'm doing different is my job is called a value keeper. And she said, a value keeper is someone who has learned how to value all people and to keep them close to their hearts,
Mm.
and not because of a position or anything. And so my mother told me, she said, at some point, you're going to learn this. She said, people will applaud for you after a while, and they'll say, oh, there's Dr. Mingo, and you got your this degree and your honorary and your earned degree and your blah, blah. She said, but at some point, don't forget who you are.
Yes.
Don't forget that the real you is that you're a value keeper. And so when you step into places where people can't value you, you still learn how to walk that out in a unique way. And so at some point, as I listened to my mom, I applied for a position at a big place. I won't call the name of it, and a national place. It was a position for me to be a key national executive. And there were like 500 applicants, and um, I was one of three out of 500. It drilled down. I was one of three. And
Wow.
then I became one of two. And in the interview, the guy said to me, he said, we have been so impressed by your credentials and your experience, but we can't hire you because our clients will not relate to you because you're a black woman.
Hmm.
And we hate to say that. We hope you don't create a lawsuit, but we're just being honest. We can't put you in this role because people will not respond to you. So we
Wow.
have to get the woman who looks more like us. And so we have to tell you that. And in that journey, I kept thinking, well, why did I even get to this point? If you had to get someone who looked like you,
Yep.
why did I even get to this point? And my mother said, you needed to have that experience and you needed to understand that you don't hold people hostage in your heart. That was a poopy ground pasture that was.
Yep.
But in the midst of that, you loved them, and even in the midst of that whole journey. And what happened was that I didn't get that position, but someone reached out to me and said, it doesn't matter, we need you. And so whoever doesn't relate to you, that's them. And
Yep.
so, so I've just learned that. And also too, I think another when I think of just a brown pastures, that there's times when I'm in situations, and I'm gonna say this earnestly and honestly because I can, because you're my friend.
Hmm.
I just feel like at times, we do respect and honor, people and what they've accomplished and things like that. But at times I feel like people don't get to know me personally.
Yep.
Like I love that you asked me, what do I like to do? That I'm sitting sitting at a bowling,
Hmm.
wherever I'm going to a bowling rink and I'm bowling balls and
Yep.
rolling them and falling out on the lanes and laughing and having fun at arcades and dancing. And so I just think that I believe personally
Yep.
that it still boils down to a South African term, Ubuntu. And
Yes.
Ubuntu is human kindness.
Yep.
I am because we are. It's not I am because I am.
Hmm.
That's Jesus. That's God.
Yep.
But I am because we are. And so there's many instances where I've just been in places and I was like, oh, it doesn't feel good. Even where I live at in Colorado Springs, it's so funny because I've done a lot of work with or law enforcement. And at one point years ago, I was in a training, and the person meant well, but we were talking about neighborhoods in the Springs that breed a little more crime, if I may
Sure.
say that.
Sure.
And so the person said, "Well, Dr. MJ, let me tell you the place that you want to try to avoid because of all this stuff here." And then when he told me, it was so funny. I said, "Oh, shucks, my house is on that street. I can't avoid it." They go, "What? You live there?" I go, "Of course. Why wouldn't I?" I said, "Every place to me um, in a city is a neighborhood, but I have to bring the neighbor into the hood."
Yes. So good. It's so good. Um, how does somebody learn to be a value keeper? Like your mom said, this is what I am, or I'm going to be a neighbor that brings the neighbor into the hood. You and I both know in the work we do, not everybody holds that identity as the
No.
beloved or as a value keeper. How
Mm.
does somebody go from maybe a place of feeling as if they don't carry any sense of belovedness or divine identity? How does one learn to be someone that could identify or live out a life as a value keeper?
I believe that we first of all have to make an intentional commitment to want to do that.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't think it's just, by the way, I'm feeling good in this neighborhood or with these people.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's stepping out of our comfort zones. And we use the term comfort zone, a lot, but I do believe that it's not just a zone, it's a comfort perspective.
Hmm.
It's that whole thing, stepping out of our comfort perspective. And to say, I mean, even if we just thought about it, about the beauty of people in our
Yeah.
neighborhoods, and they may look like they're people that we wouldn't want to talk to, but why not? And I can say this here for as a believer for
Mm.
myself, why would I want to wear a wristband? WWJD, what would Jesus do? When it's what would Melinda Joy do?
Mm. Hmm.
What would I do right now? Who is it that I'm stopping for to
Wow.
listen to for a minute? Who is it that I'm taking a moment? One day at 7-Eleven, my
Hmm.
stuffing grounds, one day I was in there and I just started singing, and I love to sing. And there were two teenage girls in there, and I was just singing, getting tea or coffee or something.
Yep.
And the girls were smiling and go, "Wow, thank you for singing to us." And I go, "Oh, you're welcome, blah, blah, what's your name?" So by the time they had left the store, and they were teenagers, by the time I got up to the counter, this guy said, "Oh, all your stuff is paid for." I said, "What?" Those two teenage girls, they left money and said, "Buy, give her whatever she wants."
Wow.
She sang to us this morning. She
Hmm.
didn't know we really needed that. She sang, so our money is her money.
So good. Yeah, I love that. I love, by the way, just like that your stories keep going back to 7-Eleven. Like what a objectively not sacred place,
I know.
for so many people, and yet
So funny.
you cultivate a sacredness and
Yes.
it's a little chapel, a little oh, I love that so
It's
much.
so fun. Oh,
Um
Tyler,
yes,
can I tell you this one other
of
story with
course.
7-Eleven? It's so fun because one day I was over there praying for someone, and there's a lot of homeless people in the alley over there.
Sure.
And so I was driving through, and so one of the guys go, "Hey, lady, I hear you giving out Bibles." I said, "Hey, man, I'm giving them out to people who want to read them." He go, "I want to read one." And so
I love it.
so I started putting them in my car. And so when I would see them at night, they would be over there. And so even Wednesday, I'm meeting someone at 7-Eleven, giving them some new Bibles and stuff.
So good.
But it's too, but I don't know. It's just this area of the city where God is like, cultivate. This is green grass here. I mean, there
Yes.
were two guys who were homeless sitting in front of 7-Eleven, and one of them said, "I haven't had a Bible in so long."
Mm.
And I said, "Well, I got some in my car." He'd go, "Could I get a new Bible?" I said, "Why
Wow.
would you want an old Bible?" And
Yes.
so we have our times there, it's just we sing, it's just I don't know. It's just some of, and 7-Eleven is not, like you said, that's not the sacred space of the place where we would
Sure.
go. And, but it's in there. I've heard, the Lord has allowed me to build bridges with people, go in
Yes.
there and pray. And then now we have people at our 7-Eleven from another country, mainly India, and people would go in and not talk to them. And so I just started one day. I was like, well, welcome to the neighborhood. And so
Mm,
now one guy put his mom on the phone from India. He go, this is the lady I was telling you about.
wow.
So-
I love it. Oh, you're such a gift. Um, we can't skip over the story. You had hinted at it that there was points in your story where you had a doctorate in your car, but your car was also your home. Would you be willing to just take us through some of that story and some of your journey through and from homelessness? And it's just as a powerful story, and I know you've told it a
yeah.
million times, but for those who listen to this podcast that don't know who you
Mhm.
are, would you be willing to kind of open up that narrative,
Mhm.
that part of your story for us?
Yes, I will. So my the story of homelessness, it kind of evolves from when I was a young adult. In every city that I was in, I don't know, my living arrangements were just always unstable.
Hmm.
And so I was in a shelter in Indiana, then I come out of that and I started working on my bachelor's degree while I was in a homeless shelter. I got permission to leave out and get that. But then when I got to Colorado Springs, my husband and I was married, and 6 months after we got here, he died from liver cancer. And so we came to this city, to Colorado Springs, with nothing. Basically, we gave away everything. We wanted a new future. And so a few months after being here, he was in hospice. I didn't have anything. We were evicted from our place because had just got here, didn't even have jobs. And so I lived with him in hospice care in Denver. So when that was done, and I didn't know anyone, so my life became one of, how do I get back on my feet? I started doing some temporary work, but I was so traumatized, Tyler, by all of that
Yes.
until, oh my gosh, I wasn't even thinking about it. I was like, I just want to leave the earth. I'm ready to go home, be with Jesus. Not just because my husband died, but I had no support, no foundation, not one person in the city that I knew, not one. So, with that being said, the journey of homelessness for me came as a result of an abrupt situational thing that happened with the death of my husband.
Yes.
And I did get a vehicle and I tried my best to get up on my feet. It's just trying to get the first month's rent, a security deposit,
Yep.
to live in a neighborhood, to get some furniture. It was so much. Your credit score has to be a certain way. And sometimes when I say this, people look at me and I just say, don't assume because people have letters behind their names that they have money,
Yep.
that they're doing well, they've got a 750, 800 credit score. No, we're talking about human beings. And
Yes.
so maybe they went to school to do something. So anyway, I had gotten up on my feet a little bit. And then when I started pursuing a PhD, I was in a major accident here in the city. I was driving in our downtown area. Two people were drag racing on a little narrow road. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you will know the road, Wasatch and Platts, with that over bridge thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so they plunged into me. Um, and at one point, all I remember is I was lying out on the road,
Mm-hmm.
out of my car on the road with paramedics working on me and all of that. And that trauma of that. And so I ended back up in a place of homelessness again. I just couldn't get up on my feet. So at some point, I started living in my car, and I would park at a Walmart parking lot here in Colorado Springs. And one lady I knew, I just didn't know anyone, and she had like all these children, and she's like, I can't put you up, but she allowed me to park in front of her place, and they would bring me out meals. And this is not like 20 years ago either. This is when I had, I was pastor, if we could say that, preaching, a PhD. And so I kind of kid with it now. And when
Yep.
people ask me, so what is your PhD? And I said, please help deliver me. I
Wow.
said, that's what it really is. It's in leadership. But that whole thing, though, for me, Tyler, I did a TED talk called Shame Off You.
Mm-hmm.
And I is when I was invited to do the TED talk, they asked me, well, are you comfortable sharing your story? And I said, yes, yes, I am, because people only know one story, and that's what
Mhm.
they think, what they see. Me traveling and all that. I'm like, I haven't always been traveling. I was sitting
Yep.
in the parking lot, hadn't taken a bath for a week. And I was like, I couldn't have no manicure, pedicure. I just needed a cure. And I'm honest about that story,
Mhm.
because it's not the people, we look at people and say, oh, everybody's homeless because they're doing drugs
Mhm.
or they're addicted to something. And I'm like, no, people have things that happen. There
Yes.
are CEOs whose houses burned down and they have nowhere to go. So you know what it birthed in me though,
Mm.
Tyler?
Mm.
It birthed within me a saying, and the saying is, our pain has a mission attached to it.
Yes.
So somehow I believe that it's easy to judge someone from a distance.
Yes.
It's so easy. But when we get close to people and lean into their stories
Yes.
and hear the why, it brings a different thing, for us in how we relate to people. And also, lastly, I'll say this here. I
Mhm.
just don't believe anything is wasted in life. You know what I mean? And so
Yes.
so my pain, the mission now is, yeah, I travel, but you know where I go when
Mm.
I travel? I'm in Vietnam.
Yep.
I go to the poorest countries and I can relate to them
Yep.
sitting in the barrios and in the camps where there's feces all over.
Yep.
And I can go over there and not just be a missionary.
Mhm.
I can go over there and be a human being.
Yes. 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 Would you be willing to share, MJ, the bridge out? Like, what was that? What did that look like? So here you were in your car in front of some lady's house, bringing you plates. PhD, please, please deliver me, God. What was that bridge from kind of where you were to where you are now? How did you work your way to becoming the MJ that we know now, which isn't the whole MJ? There's many layers to your beautiful self. But what was that bridge out from homelessness to now living in a home and doing what you do and being where you are now?
I was trying to think when you just asked me that. I think it was a series, not just one thing, but a
Yes.
series of me just saying, God, what is it that you have for me? And actually, can I start believing this for myself? I believe it for everybody else. I encourage people that God has the best. He has the best for you. And I believe that my bridge out was when I started believing that Jesus has something for me, and that it wasn't just me struggling all the time. I honestly had a poverty mentality, if I can say that, and that's because of growing up in poverty and never having a room when I grew up. Living in a corner of one bedroom with three other people on the other side.
Yep.
And so the poverty of it made me feel comfortable. And oh, it's okay. I could be comfortable living on the streets and washing up in bathrooms
Hmm.
and it doesn't matter that I have degrees and all that. My mentality had to change. And it had to change from one of being a victim to somebody who would model the grace of Jesus. And
Yes.
when I began to say, Lord, I'm believing that I can have a place. I don't have to sleep in a parking lot. And then God said, well, you just have to look. You haven't even looked. You don't even believe I'm going to give you a steady place. You start looking and you start believing, and then your story will inspire other people who are going through that, and not just people who, as we could say, margins. Everybody's on the margin in some way,
Yes.
depending upon where we go, right? So I just think just having a faith in God
Yep.
and beginning to see that He loved me too. He doesn't
Yes.
just love all the people that I was trying to help, that He
Yep.
loved me too.
It sounds like part of what you're saying there is a lot of it starts with mindset. Like, yes, God
Hmm.
loves all of them and wants their lives to change, but God might love me in the same way and want my life to change too. But then acting out of the mindset. And we'll start talking about some of the work you're doing right now, but it was something that really stuck out to me is you said you were working on your bachelor's degree while you were in a
Hmm.
shelter. So
Yes.
often the mindset of people I work with, something we have to work through in my office is when I get my degree, then things will turn out. Or if I just get a
Mm-mm.
partner, if I just get married, then my life will
Mm-hmm.
turn out. And but you were working on a bachelor's in a shelter. Could you speak
Yes.
to or maybe give just a little bit of wisdom or practical guidance to the person who's sitting in their, even if it's metaphorical, their metaphorical homeless shelter? They're at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
They're where society would say you're not, you know, of any importance, but they're frozen. They're stuck. If I could just get out of the shelter,
Yes.
then I would work on my life, many of us would say.
Mm-hmm.
That clearly
Mm-hmm.
wasn't you. How did you
No.
cultivate that mindset, or how does one get to a place where they can, in the midst of their shelter, start working on their bachelor's degree, or, of course, metaphorically, whatever they need to do to start working on becoming who God made them to be?
Yes, I would just say to encourage anyone that our circumstances don't have to define our purpose in life. They just don't. Our circumstances are a catalyst for
Yes.
sometimes understanding what our purpose is.
Wow.
Yeah, there's sometimes a catalyst because for me, when I was in the homeless shelter, I just kept thinking, I don't want to just be sitting around here all day long and, saying, oh, I'm homeless. And, yeah, I appreciate people bringing food in there and eating
Yep.
well, but that's not what I want. I want to do something different and I want to
Yes.
be different. And I just really felt like it starts now. It doesn't start when you get out of this shelter.
Yes.
It starts while you're in here. And that's what's going to help you get out of here
So
and
good.
not keep coming back. And so,
Yeah.
then I signed up for classes, and I didn't have anything, Tyler, hardly to wear. But I signed up for classes. I would take a bus, and some of my classes were late at night, and I got a pass to leave the shelter and come back. But I'm so ashamed that people would see me at the bus stop at night and go, "Melinda Joy, you want to ride?" I go, "No." So I got out of that eventually, but I would take a bus at 10 at night and walk almost 10 blocks back to the shelter
Yep.
to do my classes and stuff. And you know what it is that the more we're around what we want to see happen in our lives, the more we are encouraged and ignited about that.
Yes.
When we're not around that, then we're just going to be the same old thing. Well, I can't make it because I'm this or whatever. And I remembered someone telling me during the time of homelessness, well, Melinda Joy, I don't understand it. When I did, finally get to know a few people, I don't understand it. You have all these degrees and all that. Why would you be homeless? And I couldn't even respond. I'm
Yes.
like, this person will not understand it because it's not a degree
Hmm.
that's going to get me out of it. It's a mindset.
Yes.
And I used to laugh and tell people, you can have more degrees than a thermometer and
Yes.
don't have any kind of mindset of wanting a purpose and doing something different and seeing that there's something about it. It's something I believe, Tyler, is that a lot of times we use a present situation to try to say why the past didn't work. So, for
Mm,
instance, if I known what I knew then, yeah, but we can't try to define the past by present information.
mm.
We didn't know that then, whatever, but what are
Yes.
we doing? Right? So no need of going back saying that we're in a new place. It's
Yes.
like that little kid's book, Alice in Wonderland.
Hmm.
And then when Alice, she gets to this fork in the road and that big old cat, Chesaroo, is up there like, oh, she's like, well, which way should I go?
Yes.
And then Mr. Chesaroo was like, where are you trying to go? She said, I don't know. He said, well, it don't matter what direction you take.
Hmm.
You're going nowhere in every direction.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, that's so good. Sometimes when people ask me, we're trying to discern a decision, and they just worry, 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 and I think, okay, if you go to that college, are you gonna like just start doing meth or like or not?
Yep.
Oh, no, I'm gonna be fine. I'm still gonna stay sober. I'm gonna get my degree. Okay, you
Mm-hmm.
go to that college, are you still gonna get your degree? Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna be an addict. You're not gonna be wiling out. Just pick one. God
Yep.
will go with you either way. Just go.
That's
Like,
right.
just go.
Just
Just move.
go.
Yes. Just move.
Move. Move. Move.
Yes.
It's a dog has four paws,
Hmm.
but a dog doesn't walk on four legs at one time.
Yes. Yes.
Those four paws are used to leverage that animal to move in some direction, not to sit all day, to move in some direction. It's like go.
Yes.
And so we have within us what we need. It's just that our circumstances make us feel shameful
Yes.
or make us feel like failures, and I don't want to try again. It's like, if you don't want to try again, then there's no need of you asking people to help you,
Yes.
because it's not people helping. It's rising up like that phoenix bird
Mm-hmm.
out of that ash heap and
Yes.
saying all of my stuff done burnt up, if I can say that. But
Yes.
I'm gonna try one more time. Just try it one more time. Sometimes the one
Mm.
time that a person doesn't try is the time that they could really get into something that would really blow their
Yes.
mind.
It's so good. You have a book, a really good book. You wrote it, I believe it came out during COVID time and you couldn't tour it around. You couldn't
Mhm.
promote it the
No.
way you wanted to. The Colors of Culture, the Beauty of Diverse Friendships. Um, I read it a couple years ago and then I sped read it last night, knowing we were going to have our talk today. It's so good. Um, why'd you write it? Where did it come from? Where was it birthed
Mhm.
out of? Talk about this wonderful work of yours.
No, thank you. Yeah, that's a COVID book, baby.
Yes.
That book was birthed in 2019, in 2020, right on the end of getting to 21. And it's so funny because there were so many of us. I published it through InterVarsity Press, and they were like, "Oh, you're gonna have your tours and all of this," and then boom, everything shut down.
Yep.
So nobody really got to even know about the book. We
Mhm.
tried to do a little bit. I wrote the book, The Colors of Culture, and a play on word, but the subtitle, The Beauty of Diverse Friendships, because I used to be a DEI trainer,
Yep.
diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so this may make people not like me, but I used to I used to be a DEI trainer and for years. And so I believe there were some things that, I was able to communicate about valuing people and all
Yes.
of that. But at some point, I'm like, I'm so sick of this, that just going up into these places and everybody's mandated they have to go to a training, and we have Dr. Melinda Joy and tell us why we're wrong. I said, huh? Why white people are the cause of this? I go, what in the tarnation are you talking about? Or
Mm,
why this group of people is not a good group? So at some point I was really praying and I was like, I can't do it anymore.
mm,
I'm like, I am a kingdom trainer and I am a
mm.
person who, like my mom, is a value keeper. And so I said, we miss so many opportunities. I'm
Yes.
so passionate about relating to people from different backgrounds because we just scary cats sometimes, just those scary cats, and people have to look like us. So I said, I want to write a book and
Mm,
I want to talk about the beauty of people, period,
mm.
and that we don't have to sit in a room watching a video about shame and blame. Yes, we need to know the atrocities of things that have happened. It helps us to hopefully
Yes.
not to commit some of those same things again,
Yes.
hopefully. But the main part of it is again that South African term Ubuntu. I
Hmm.
wrote it around the theme of human kindness, and I share stories throughout the book of my stories actually and others in there. And so my first story that I share is how I was such a racist growing up
Mm.
in Chicago, and then so because I was taught that my enemy was people who did not look like me.
Sure.
Anybody who did not look like me was the enemy, and I was taught that, and I didn't know, and I developed these barriers and walls and all of that. And so again, I talk about my struggles with that, but how when became a believer, gave my life to the Lord, that He began to show me, you got brothers and sisters everywhere.
Sure.
They don't look like you, but you're like-minded. You can have fun. You can do kingdom work. So in the book, The Beauty of Diverse Friendships, I share about my travels all around the world.
Yep.
When I was in Kenya, in Nairobi, and my life-changing experience with a Maasai tribe out in the desert, drinking blood, killing animals, drinking blood, and offering me a cup of blood, and relating how to relate to them. I didn't drink
Yep.
that, but
Yep.
I talk about my journey in an AIDS clinic in Sudan and Ethiopia. I have a medical background, and so just what I saw in Ethiopia, 82 different languages in Addis Ababa. So I Vietnam. So I've been in Vietnam traveling. I'm a professor over there as well,
Yep.
and guest lecturer. And but like 10 years, maybe a little more than that, 12 years, I've been coming and going to Hanoi, Vietnam, and Ho Chi Minh City. And so Vietnam was a learning place. When I got off the plane in Vietnam, embarked on a journey of understanding my value in work. I didn't learn that here in America. I learned it in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And I learned it. And in my book, I won't go through all of it, but in my book, I share about my stories in Vietnam, being the only Black woman walking the streets
Hmm.
and walking the streets in Hanoi, and people staring, and I'm going, oh my God, I ain't coming back over here. I can't do it. And then at some point, watering that grass and continually going back to
Yep.
Vietnam, to Hanoi, and my friends waiting at midnight. MJ is coming back. And so they're all waiting at midnight. They all have food waiting. It doesn't matter. People on the streets now who know me, storekeepers who know me, like MJ's back. She's here. She's back.
Mm.
And now I walk the streets and it's not anything foreign. I started a salsa club, dance club over there because
So
I
good.
teach dancing. I teach dancing in Vietnam. So now they have an MG club because they can never say MJ. MG, we got an MG club over here. And
Oh,
so and I sing with them. And so there's the MG Latin dance club
so good.
or times when I'm over there and they're like, MG, can you teach us how to break dance? I go, no, I can't, but I can teach you other stuff. So so
Yeah.
it's so fun. And so I use those stories in my book
Yep.
to illustrate that I myself, first of all, had to step out of a judgmental
Hmm.
place
Hmm.
of being so one-sided, and that
Yep.
my enemy,
Mm.
the enemy was within,
Yes.
but I thought it was outside,
Yep.
and so outside of me rather. So that's what I want. I just wanted to warm people's hearts with this book. We made it a smaller book that can fit in your pocket
Yep.
or bag, and then after each chapter, I have pause questions in there. I really prayerfully reflected over questions that people can answer in your personal
Yep.
reflection time, like a journal or with group settings or whatever. But real questions, the real things that we don't want to talk about.
Hmm.
Like, you don't like certain people. And when you see a group of people who have these kind of tattoos on, you've already made a decision.
Yep.
you know
Yep.
that these are these people.
Hmm.
So it's
Hmm.
I you know it's a thought-provoking book, but I wrote it because I want to be a catalyst for something different. And
Yes.
part of that is in Revelation. I think about Revelation 5:7-9, where John said, I saw a multitude of all kindred, all nations, all tongues, all people
Yes.
worshiping together. So that's not just in the by and by, that's in the now and now,
Hmm.
here and now. How
Yeah.
do we learn how to just come out of our comfort to just relate to people?
Yep. Oh, that's so good. And I think, you are an academic. You know the scripture so well. Like you're so smart, you're so heady, you're an academic. But like
Oh
what I
no.
love about the book is that again, it really is an action book. Like most of it is stories. This is what happened. This is how
Yeah.
I lived it out. Father Richard Rohr,
Mm-hmm.
he often says, we can't think ourselves into new ways of living. We have to live ourselves
No.
into new ways of thinking. And and
Ooh,
I
that's
think
so good.
and I think that's what this book really is for me, is it's like it's kind of a proof of concept to your life. It's like we all want to be like Dr. MJ. But this book
That's
has
so
the
good.
stories that kind of show us how you lived your way to this. And I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I
Oh,
got two more questions, and then we'll do a part two some other day. Um,
sure.
because I'm just loving this, and it's just so good.
Me too.
Um,
Thank you.
what One of my core messages is belovedness. That's what my book is going to be all about, called Born Beloved. And um, so you talk about value keepers. You talk about identity so well when you've spoken at the sanctuary. It echoes for months and months after you share about that. Could you just speak
Mm.
into, maybe as a parting message, about belovedness, about our identity? Could you encapsulate just some of that? I know you could talk about that for ages, but just give us a little bit about belovedness, a little bit about identity. What would your impartation to
Mm.
my audience be as it comes to identity, especially again as someone who does have the credentials? who has lived in her car, who has experienced immense grief, who is a leader and yet has been in Vietnam, where you started as the only black woman on the whole street, places where your identity could be fulfilled by your credentials, and other places where nobody knows what those letters mean. You've lived it. What do you have for us? Impart on us your great messages of belovedness.
Wow, thank you. So I will say, I think of a story that in the 1800s, we hear about the Great Gold Rush in the
Mm-hmm.
1800s.
Yeah.
And so everyone is like, oh, we discovered gold. But actually, it wasn't in the 1800s. It was in the 1790s. A 12-year-old boy who actually saw gold and didn't know what it was. He took it and thought it was a big old, huge, beautiful rock and used it as a doorstop in
Mm.
his house to prop the doors open. And at some point, people began to say, do you know his father, I believe it was, that said, we need to go and see what this rock is. And they took it. And I think it was over 10 pounds, Tyler, but it was a huge chunk of gold.
Yep.
And and so, but that little boy, he didn't love it because he knew that it was gold. He loved it for what it was before he found out it was gold.
Yes.
And so our belovedness, and when we think about how much God loves us, it's not based on what we do or don't do, you know, all of these things that the natural man bases relationship or belovedness on.
Yep.
It's simply based on the fact that we are his beloved. We
Yep.
are that he's proven it. He's given us a manual, even where he said, "You want to know how beloved you are? Go into this here psalm. Let me tell you how I think about you, and
Yep.
let me let you know that I sing over you. That
Hmm.
I look at you at night and I go, oh my gosh, look at my creation."
Yep.
And so, but that belovedness has to come from a place of us understanding our identity.
Yes.
And our identity, a lot of times, is rooted in what we can produce, so that when we first meet people and they go, so what do you do?
Yep.
Not how are you? What do you do?
Yep.
Well, her identity gets rooted in, well, not much or
Yep.
whatever.
Yep.
But when we really begin to realize, I believe, Tyler, that our identity is the word I is the first letter. So what do we identify with?
Hmm.
That is how we really understand belovedness. If we identify with only who people has what they've called us, what they've said about us,
Yep.
I heard a saying that it's not what people call us, it's what we continually answer to.
Yes. Mm.
You're a loser. Well, why would I turn around and go, you're talking about me? No, no. We are beloved just because God says there's nothing about you that I need to change. We ain't talking about behavioral stuff. That's what that is. But when we get down in our minds and in our hearts, that you know what? The belovedness is not only how he sees me, it's how I see him. Because when we
Wow.
don't see God as our beloved, we see him as either a person wanting to punish us when we do something wrong, or either he's going to reward us, like 911, ding, 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 whatever. No, no, no. It's not a war. Settling the fact
Yes.
that
Mm.
every day, every moment, our beloved
Yes.
cares, loves us, and also too that he wants us to see him as a
Yes.
beloved too.
Yes, he does.
Yes,
Mm.
yes, it does.
MJ, that's so good. Thank you so much.
Yes.
I have one more question I wrote down. And it maybe is a little bit of a left turn after such a good impartation to my people. But you said, so often people, they want to know what you have to teach. We all want your wisdom. We all, want to follow in your footsteps. But sometimes people don't get to really know the MJ. They don't get to really know you, who you are.
Mhm.
I'd be curious just to leave us with a cliffhanger for our next interview someday. What is something that people misunderstand about you? What is the layers, like what is something about you that's like just so awesome that nobody asks you, like, what's the thing you wish people would know about MJ, that when all we do is talk about you being homeless and your doctorates and all of your wisdom on diversity and
Yeah.
friendships and belovedness, what's the thing we all miss? Like, what question didn't I ask you that I should have? Because I'm still learning to get to know the real MJ. What's a part of that that people miss often about you that we should
Mm.
know, because you clearly are so much more than what you can teach us? Um, yeah, what's something that's misunderstood? What should we know about you that's deep beneath the layers that doesn't get on the podcasts and on the stages usually?
Wow, that's so good. That question almost makes me cry. I mean, it's so great. Wow. Well, geez, I think the first thing is, so like my friends, you're my friend, you're my close friend. So,
Mm,
you call me MJ. And so, I love that. Um, but most people who are not my close friend, they never get to know my name, and
mm.
they will never say my full name. When
Wow.
I introduce myself, and they say, "So what's your name?" I said, "My first name is Melinda Joy." They go, "Hi, Melinda."
Yep.
And so I go, "Melinda Joy is my first name." "Oh, sorry,
Yes.
Melinda." And
Hmm.
so it's an interesting journey
Yes.
because the reason why my name is so important, Tyler, is because all through life, my name has been like marred. Like on my birth certificate, my
Mm,
mom, she lied about my dad's name. And then when I was adopted, they changed my name to some goofy name. And I was like, whose name is that? And so when my adopted parents died, I had to go and fight for my real name again,
wow.
Melinda Joy.
Hmm.
And so, because I went under an alias and they didn't know any better. And so then my mom said, but your name, my mom was, I think she was contemplating an abortion. And
Hmm.
the reason why Joy is in my name is because she realized, she said that I was getting ready to not bring joy on this earth. And so it's important that I had to have joy. And
Hmm.
so my name is something that people will not even say my name.
Yep.
They just go Melinda or they don't listen to me, whatever. So I don't know why, but my
Yeah.
name is so important to me because I've walked through so much depression in life.
Hmm.
And I was always, before I, really come to this place of my belovedness,
Yep.
I was always contemplating as a teenager how I was going to take my life. I had no joy,
Hmm.
none. And so there's been such a redemption of joy and
Yep.
laughter,
Mm,
even in the midst of pain, that my name is important. And then I think the other thing is people make an assumption because I have a book
mhm,
or, a PhD and all, that I'm doing well,
mhm.
that I'm doing well because of a book, or
Yep.
I'm doing well because I have a TED Talk. And so very rarely do people ask me how I'm doing.
Yep.
That is a rare question. They'll say, "So what are you doing now, Melinda Joy, or
Yep.
whatever?" And there's times when I'm just hurting. I'm like Father's Day is the day that
Yes.
my husband died, late husband died on Father's Day.
Yep.
And so people know that and all, but they go, "So can you come do this for us on Father's Day?" And I'm not like in this place of grief anymore. But I think the thing that I would like for people to know is just, I would just like people to ask me how I'm doing.
Yes. Yes. I appreciate that.
Yeah, but
I
you
really
do. And I want
appreciate
to say this to you too, that you know why I so appreciate you, Tyler, is that from the time that I first met you at Sanctuary,
it. Hmm.
you've always just been, and this is the truth. I'm not just saying it because we're on the podcast. You have always been the most honoring person to me. So it doesn't matter. Whenever you ask me anything, I'm like, I'm coming. And I have said that. "Hey, MJ, can you do this?" Yep, because you're my friend.
Thank you.
And you take time to listen to me. And
Mm,
so why would I not come? You know what I'm saying? I
yeah.
don't want to just show up because I have something to give. I want to show up because of who I am. So I want to
Yes.
thank you for that too.
Yeah. Thank you. Um, Maybe one more just really vulnerable question here. Like, would you prefer that I call you Melinda Joy? Like
No.
we've always been MJ, and that's how I always.
Hmm.
But to hear you say that, I would say, like, why wouldn't I call you Melinda Joy and take the extra syllables and just go there? You know what I'm saying? Like it seems like well worth the effort.
Oh, no, that's nice. Yeah, you can. I think it's because my friends, I'm not sure how MJ is not even a nickname.
Yeah.
I don't even know why people started calling me that. I've been reflecting. Pretty
Yeah.
much 60% of the people in the city call me MJ.
Yep.
Even when I'm introduced, they're like, this is Pastor MJ. But I'm like, I want my name because my
Well,
name was taken away from me.
okay.
And
Well,
my,
let's do
yeah.
this then. I'm not trying to take away your voice here, but I'm taking a stand today, and I ain't going to MJ no more.
Oh,
Let's
but you can.
let's just say Melinda Joy. At least
Okay.
I'm going there.
Okay.
I'll see if I can start a movement and we can bring it back. You of
Okay.
anybody, it's well worth to use the whole name.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because my middle name is Charity, love.
yes. Oh,
So all
just
of the things that are missed by, and people make fun of my name. You know, you're like a Doobie, a Mary Jane Doobie, or
mhm.
you're Spider Man's girlfriend. So it's always tied
Wow.
to something.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh. Um,
This is.
real quick, what I want to do is I want to make sure some people can get your book. And so on Instagram, I'm going to be doing a little giveaway. So
Oh.
this is just for the little thing that I'm doing, but the keyword is going to be value keeper. So the first person to
Wow.
DM me on Instagram, my Instagram handle is the Tyler. The first person to DM me the words value keeper, I'm going to mail them. I'm going to order and mail them a copy of your book. So
Oh.
DM me value keeper. That's the keyword. Um, so I needed to get that out of the way. Melinda Joy, you're just the best.
Oh,
I
you
love
too.
you. I'm so honored by you. I
Oh,
just I'm better
thank
because you
you.
exist.
Oh.
So thank you for being here. Where can people find you if they want to like follow along on your journey? What's the
Mhm.
best place they can follow you, contact you, get a hold of you? Yeah, where can people find you?
Sure. So I'm on LinkedIn, and that's probably a better place because I do have a lot of my journey on there, things that I'm doing, people
Hmm.
that if they want to connect with me, they can connect with me there. Or my email, if they want to, it's just MelindaJoy373 at gmail.com.
All right.
And if they're interested in a book or something, it's online, Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, and all of that. But
Yep.
yeah. Or they
Love it.
can contact my friend Tyler.
There it is. There it is. The Colors of Culture is the name of the book. Melinda Joy Mingo is the name. Emphasis on the joy. Oh man, thank
That's
you
so
so
good.
much. Love
Thank you
you.
for asking me that. You're the first person that. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. Well, thank you, Melinda Joy. We'll talk soon.
Okay, talk soon. Bye bye.
All right, bye.